So does anybody know how to get to any of the past webinars that we've done? There's a lot. No. So there's a variety of ways. I think probably one of the most efficient is just to go to communities. You can search for BLM, and most of you are part of this BLM community. All of the different communities that are in the community platform, you can go and look at what's on there, and you can look at events. And so this has upcoming events like this one that we're on, but you can also click and go to past events. So for example, if you missed, this webinar on December 9th and that was of interest to you, what we're doing is just posting a link to those resources there from those old event pages. And so here is a video and slides of what we went through on that past one. So today's webinar will also be up there after the recording is complete. So any questions on how to find the past webinars? Hey, Austin. Okay, cool. So what we wanted to do on this week's webinar is just go through the real basics of getting started with QRiS and Riverscape Studio. And we're going to do that by just choosing an arbitrary new location, a new site. And we're going to go in, and without having even been to this site or collected any data, we're just going to go grab some things that are available in the data exchange, and we are going to open those up in the viewer, and then we're going to get started in Riverscape Studio with importing a couple of these things. We're going to find our project reach. We're going to delineate a watershed specific to that within QRiS using StreamStats. We'll create some other areas of interest, and then we will start importing some contextual information into a Riverscape Studio project. And then we'll show you how to do an analysis using Climate Engine. So past webinars, we've covered a few other aspects of getting started in QRiS, mainly, how to sort of digitize and data capture events. So this is kind of what would precede some of that. Just I think I'm going to get started in an area, and now I'm going to make a Riverscape Studio project. Anything to add from the team or questions about what we're trying to do here? Okay. So I'm going to go and start Q in the background here. And then in addition to that, I am going to go to the data exchange. Some of the past webinars we've talked about, how you can go and find stuff in the data exchange. And so our first step here, we're going to choose a location on the map. I'm going to choose Missoula if I can. And so I'm zooming into an area where, let's say, I'm thinking about working, and maybe I'll filter down. And now I've got all of the available projects for this little bit of a watershed. I'm going to be working up here in Rattlesnake Creek. Maybe I can further filter down to just grab some basic context. So I'll grab Riverscape context projects. And so I've already actually downloaded this, but I could just hit download. That would bring a zip file down, and we would be off to the races. And so right here, you can see I've, whoops, I'm in the wrong one. I've downloaded that Riverscape context project, and who can, basically what's in these Riverscape context projects?
Hydrography, topography, human infrastructure, vegetation, climate.
So a whole bunch of stuff that would be a pain to go download from lots of places. Yeah. Let's search for another type of project, VBET right here. I could download this VBAT project. This one's 2 years old, this one's 4 months old, so I'd download the latest. And that is going to be taking those inputs out of the Riverscape context and attempting to map where the riverscapes, where the valley bottoms are, and divvy them up. So these are 2 projects that are at the Huck 10 watershed scale in an area, and let's just say for kicks that I'm going to be working somewhere up in here in this in this watershed. Okay, so I download those two zip files. I unzip them. You can see I've got them unzipped here to their folders. And now we are ready to go over in QGIS. Okay, so all we've done here is we're just getting some Riverscape project data from the data exchange to get oriented. A little bit out of order here. So I'm going to come into QGIS. I have already the 2 plugins that I'm going to need. I have the viewer and I have a QRiS project. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new blank empty QRiS project. Okay. Let's, I do have that in this folder here, which is this QRiS demo folder. So we'll stick with that. That's fine. And I'll call this live mess. All right.
Hey, Joe, probably worth mentioning there, the way things are set up right now in this version, you want to select the path before you type the name. If you try and do it in the reverse order, it can cause some problems.
Kelly, is that still true, or is that fixed in this 1.07?
It's either fixed in that version or the current in progress version, but it should be clean.
Okay. So Jordan's basically just saying you would select this folder first, and then the name. There was in some of the earlier versions there was a little bug there, but should be something that folks would notice going forward. So I have a blank empty container. This is a QRiS project. If I were to right click on that project and browse on disk, I can see that it's just created in that folder live mess, and there's a geo package there. So there's nothing in this to get started. So our suggested workflow here is we go to the data exchange. We get a couple of projects that may be useful for where we're hoping to work. And so I have 2 of those, and I'm going to go ahead and open them with the viewer. And so the QRiS plugin, the layer manager, and what we'll see, the viewer plugin, they all look similar. And both QRiS and the viewer are going to be adding stuff to your layer manager. So just kind of, for now, I'm going to have QRiS on the right. We'll see the viewer come in down here, and then this is my my map document here. So I'm going to open using the viewer. So this is the viewer plugin right here. I'm going to go to this folder where I downloaded those 2 projects, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up in this Riverscape context. I'm going to open up that project. And so it's loaded that in. I'm going to zoom to the layer here. So this is that watershed that we were looking at. And like Philip said, there's a whole bunch of goodies in here. You know, geology, I could get, land ownership. Great job, Joe, arbitrarily choosing a watershed that has no BLM ownership in it. But there's some next door, but I'm not going to go get that right now. And then we've got topography. So if I wanted to bring in the DEM here, I've got that, hillshade, etc. So bunch of stuff, but it's just context that I've added to the map right here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at where is it that I actually might want to work here. And so I'm turning off a few layers and let's zoom in. Oh, look at that. There's a beaver dam. That might be there's a place we might consider working. So let's say that this is our sort of project area. So one of the first things I'm going to do is in my QRiS project, I'm going to just manually create an area of interest, okay? And this could be, you know, a property boundary. This could be allotment boundaries, could be reach boundaries, whatever you want. So, you know, my project area, I'll call this. And what that does is it creates an empty container. You can see that it's empty, it's denoted there, and it's added that empty container to the map. If I want to actually make it something, I can right click on it and toggle the editing. And then I can, oops, wrong toolbar. And then I can, you know, draw my polygon that represents my project area, okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and stop editing and save those edits. And so now I have this little area of interest. It's not real pretty, but it is a polygon, and that's where I'm going to work. So we have these projects, this Riverscape Context project. Let's also go grab that Valley Bottom project so we can see actually what the riverscapes look like in this watershed and in our area of interest. So I'm going to open up the Valley Bottom project. So this is the VBET project that we downloaded. I'm going to open that one up. And so that's brought in. We've got this other project here. I'm just going to sort of, so that these things are kind of in the order that I want them, I'm going to drag this VBET project down below my live mess so I can still see my little area of interest. And so in this VBET project, it's brought it in with a hillshade, and it's brought it in with this Valley Bottom extent. So if I zoom in here, I can see in my project area where we might be working. It looks like I didn't do a very good job now that I've got that Valley Bottom brought in here with my project bounds. So I might edit that. And I might, let's see, help me. Is it vertex layer, Josh, that I use?
Yeah, you can move that pointer.
What am I doing wrong? You know what? I'm lazy. Goodbye. And I will just draw myself a whole new reach. Okay, there we go. So I've got a revised sort of project layer here. So what if I want to bring in some stuff from this VBET project or the Riverscape Context project? I want to keep it in my Riverscape Studio project. Why would I want to do that? So maybe like I would like to have a DEM, you know, for when I make my location maps. Or maybe I'd like to have a watershed that's not just this entire Huck 10, but specific to where I'm working here. So I can bring things in. And so, for example, if I wanted to bring in land ownership, when I right click in the viewer on a layer, if we've just been using this add to map, but if I go down here, it also has an add to QRiS option, okay? And so I can bring in this land ownership layer, and it's gonna bring it in as context into my QRiS project, okay? So I'm just gonna say land ownership here, and I'll bring that in. And so what's happened here is under context, I have land ownership. And so now if I completely got rid of from the map, that Riverscape context layer, I have now, this is part of my land ownership layer. I could even remove it from the map. and I have it symbolized, and I have it part of my QRiS project. So this is just, doesn't matter what things you bring in, they can be from any sort of riverscape project, but from a housekeeping perspective, it may be desirable to bring in stuff so that you kind of have it in one place. You don't have to go remember the 5 different riverscape projects that you're grabbing information from. You can just put it in this project for your project that you're working on. Any questions or comments on that from anybody? So, but sometimes it might be nice to have something that is less, that's instead of just a straight copy, that it's clipped down to the area that I'm working in. So for example, in VBET, one cool output is this likelihood raster, right? This is a raster that's the likelihood of being a valley bottom, and you can see the greens and the blues are high likelihoods, and inside what's delineated as valley bottom, and then the colors outside of that. But maybe I don't need that for the entire watershed, right? So if I want it in my live mess project here, what I could do is I could right click on it in the viewer, I could add it to QRiS, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take advantage of the fact that this is a Riverscape project and I have an area of interest. That's my project area. And so I'm going to bring it in, and I am going to clip it to that area of interest. So now I have taken a copy of this. It's retained all of the metadata from where this project came from the Riverscape project that this layer came from, etc. I could put in a description, etc., etc. But now I have this likelihood raster just for the area that I'm going to work. And one of the cool things you can do, it's only appropriate for, say, a detrended DEM or a hand, like a height above nearest drainage, or these likelihood rasters. But one of the things you can do is I have shown here this in white. This is the VBET valley bottom delineation, this guy right here that I'm toggling on and off. You could actually use this raster and use this slider tool to create your own version of this, if you will. So this brought up this little dialogue, and I can do, I can toggle this to create something outside of it or inside of it. So this is inside. And you can see that right now it's sort of thresholded right at that edge, but I can just play with this slider and I can delineate a slightly different valley bottom using the same likelihood surface, but then what was there. So if I do that and I create something that I like better, let's say I'm being more restrictive, that I like better than what was in there, I can export that polygon. My skimpy VB. And so it's added that right there. And so I will just go ahead and turn off these. And so that gray there is this skimpy valley bottom. So there are other things you can do once you have that. You could promote that guy right there to an area of interest itself that you could clip things from. You could promote it to your own Riverscape valley bottom. You can, stuff we won't do, but you could actually make sample frames off of that, pull profiles, cross sections. There's a whole bunch of cool features there. So I'll just pause. Any questions on what we've done so far? We've created, without going to the site, just choosing where we're going to work, grabbing Riverscape context and valley bottom, and we've just pulled in a couple of contextual layers just to kind of get us roughly oriented. Comments, questions, anything to add?
Yeah, and Joe, I don't know if you're going to comment on this, but you can bring in any GIS data. It doesn't have to be Riverscapes. It can be any vector, any raster as well.
So the folks in BLM who may have funded riparian wetland mapping or some very specific layers could also bring them in as context that are specific to us.
Exactly. So good point, both of you. Thank you. So you could just use this import existing context raster or an input or a vector data set. With the vector data sets, if you have them stored as temporary files in your layer manager, you can bring them in directly from that as well. Cool. Okay, so what if I want a watershed that instead of being what we had, I think I turned off Riverscape context here. There's VBET. So with the Riverscape context, we had watershed boundaries, and we were dealing with this big Huck 10, you know, and there are Huck 12s, and yeah, maybe I could pick the 12 that's best for my site. But what if I want a watershed specific to this reach that I'm working in? Well, you could go out and, you know, kind of get the lat long right here, and you could go out to stream stats. You could also in GIS, there's lots of workflows if you have the entire DEM for the catchment for playing the raindrop game and delineating a watershed. Sort of a pain. We've just added there's a feature here where you can right click on this catchment delineations in your context, and you could actually run stream stats by clicking on the map at a location of that desired sort of pour point or outlet. And so if I zoom in down here, and I'm going to say, you know, watershed upstream or watershed for my reach, and I'll calculate basin statistics, and I will also say this is from the bottom of my reach. So that's going to go off, and it's going to attempt being the operative word, to go to stream stats on the USGS's API and delineate a watershed for us. So
just a comment there, Joe. This process is quite fussy. It's really important that you zoom in really close to your reach and try to click precisely on the reach. If you slightly miss, it will calculate the catchment of the hill slope next to the river, etc. So you might have to do a bit of trial and error here, but get in really close and try to click on the blue line, the blue flow line Joe has there. I guess that's on the map, but yeah.
Yeah, I just grabbed that from the Riverscape context there. So that is off thinking. I can do some more stuff, but there it's come back, and you can see it's delineated a watershed that it's falling within that Huck 10, but it's specific to my reach area right here. And so I could go ahead and delineate another one at the top, and so I could see what's coming in, you know, from upstream of the reach versus what's coming in from the drainage wings within it. But this, I can now take that guy, and if I right click on that watershed, I can promote it to what we call an area of interest or an AOI. Why would I want to do that?
Most of the tools for importing, you can clip your data just to that AOI.
Exactly. So it looks a little silly here on the map because I've got all these things going on. So let me just turn off some clutter. I'm going to turn off that watershed that got delineated. And now I can see I have both my project area as an area of interest here. And then I also have this watershed that we've delineated. And so then I could come in and I could bring something, for example, from Riverscape context. I might want a DEM, and I add it to QRiS like we did before. So this would be, you know, the NED DEM. It's from Riverscapes project. But instead of just bringing the whole thing in, now I'm going to clip it to my watershed. And so that brings in that DEM. It even calculated a hillshade for us right there. And so that's pretty handy. So you can bring in anything that is of interest to you. Another example, you might want the valley bottoms. We'll show it two ways here. One, you could just bring the whole valley bottom by level path or stream. And I could do the same thing where I clip that one to the watershed. And so VBET by level path, I'll call this one. And so it is in here, but because I have these other things, I need it on top there. So I'll go ahead and turn that off so you can see. So that brought in from the valley bottom tool, just the valley bottoms that are upstream for my watershed. You get the idea. You could also clip it, to this particular area that we're working on. So the last thing that I want to show you is how to do a climate engine analysis. And one of the things that you'll need to be able to do that is you'll need to have something. What I'm going to use here is this My Skimpy Valley Bottom. That's that little gray one that we used in here that I'm toggling on and off. I'll turn off this guy. And we could do a climate engine analysis. So basically any of the layers that you can find on Climate Engine, we can do an analysis of what shows up in these polygons. Now, warning, I've chosen a fairly narrow little valley bottom. I've made it even skimpier. How good this analysis is with such a small sample frame and big 30-meter pixels, yeah, who knows? But the workflow is the more important thing here. So I'm going to hit Explore Climate Engine. It says there's no sample frames, and so I need to take my skimpy valley bottom, and I'm going to promote that to a sample frame. Kelly, I think I can just hit OK here and not worry about all the flow to paths and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just a note, we're working on an update where you can calculate climate engine using AOIs or valley bottoms. So we're going to expand it so it's not just sample frames.
And we'll probably do another webinar where we get into sample frames and differences between discrete geographic objects and IGOs, integrated geographic objects, and how we divvy up space. But for now, the sample frame is what we're going to use to go grab information from Climate Engine. So we'll explore Climate Engine. And it's got this, so there's a whole bunch of features here. I can, let's see if it, no, it doesn't highlight interactively, but I'm just going to grab all of those in my Skimpy Valley Bottom. And then I'm going to hit Download Metrics. And this will bring up a dialog. And what this is saying is, okay, what's the sample frame? These are the individual features within that. And then for each of those, what do I want to get? What data set? And so there's a plethora of data sets available in Climate Engine. One some of you might be familiar with is the rangeland analysis platform, the vegetation cover, for example. And so I could go and choose whichever things that I'm interested in there. I could choose how long I want to do this for, and so that's going to go from 1986 to 2021. And what this is going to do is attempt to use my sample frames, those polygons there, and go talk to Climate Engine and then download these metrics. Yes, there could be a lot of data. Thank you so much.
And just one little note, make sure you've updated QRiS to a pretty recent version, I think 1.6. Climate Engine made some API changes that we had to add in.
Any other questions while we're waiting for the API to spit back some stuff. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Luke.
Hey, just a question about the earlier getting in the data sources. Can you do like web services, REST service? Is there a way to import those?
Not yet, but we actually have that as a feature that Kelly's working on. I'm not sure if it'll be the next release or a couple releases out, but to basically keep in your project, yes, these were the web mapping services or REST services that I was referencing. We're going to expand the surfaces library, which is where that's where you bring in your aerial photos or drone photos or DEMs, and we're going to expand that so that it can also make reference to because a lot of us are just using say Bing imagery or Google imagery or something like that.
Right.
So
okay.
long-winded, not yet, but yes, it's a good request.
And one more thing. So it's in the context section on the right. That's the only place you can promote to the area of interest, right? Or VBET, or sample frame. So in other words, if you have a custom data source, you have to get it in context first, and you can't do that promotion from the other sections, right? I just want to make sure I understand that, if that makes sense.
You can actually import directly into an AOI or surface. If you click on import from,
okay,
you can pull right from a feature class on disk or a temporary layer. So you don't have to go through context. You can just import it directly.
Okay, I gotcha. I guess.
And Luke, I was just going to say that what Joe said about web mapping services is correct, but if it's a web feature service, you can add it to your map, right click and save a portion of that as a local feature class, and then bring it in via the method that Kelly was just describing there.
Okay.
But Luke, one of the you're right though that everybody's right here. You can directly import some polygon feature classes as area of interest. You can directly import surfaces, but context and then this promotion to area of interest or promotion to a riverscape or promotion to sample frames. Part of the reason that workflow exists is to make sure that we are checking that data set has what it needs to be used in that. So it's yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Great, thank you.
Okay, so back on the climate engine, for the metrics that we've downloaded here, this is all for our sample frame. Let's see here. Well, that's a hot mess. Look at that. So this is annual forb and grass cover. What the numbers represent are the individual polygons that were in our little analysis here. So I probably should have cleaned those up before promoting that to a sample frame. But you can get some information pretty quickly here. And so this is through time, the estimates in each of those polygons of percent tree cover within those polygons or percent bare ground, et cetera, et cetera. And so it takes some awareness of what is actually available in Climate Engine. You probably want to look in Climate Engine at some of those data sets and get a feel for if there are things that are useful. But this is potentially a way to get some really helpful baseline data, or if your project took place a few years ago, you might look to see, do we see a change, after the project was in one of these values. And don't expect everything to work perfectly. It's just remotely sent satellite data, but it's a way to get started with some contextual information for free. So I'm just going to recap here kind of what we've done. We created a QRiS project. We brought in some contextual data from some other Riverscape projects. As Luke and others pointed out, you can bring in anything is contextual data that's GIS data. We delineated a watershed for upstream of our reach. We created a few areas of interest. Oh, I didn't find the nearby stream gauges. This just take a sec. We imported some valley bottoms and promoted those to sample frames. Then we did a quick climate engine analysis. I did gyp you on the other promise there, which was stream gauges. You can hit right-click, explore stream gauges, download the gauges. It says no stream gauges were found in the current map extent. So I can zoom out, try again, and then now it's found a nearby stream gauge. I could see what kind of, whoops, date range I can get greedy on here and download discharge, and needs a little love on the formatting there. Wow, that one's that's quite interesting.
I think I need to revisit that. I think we're pulling in some gauges have extra variables that we're plotting there.
I think it might have been how yeah, okay. But let's just try this again. Download gauges. Is it going to see more? Okay, so there's a whole bunch. So let's try this guy. It's funny, in my demo before, I was doing just fine, Kelly. I'm sorry to make it look bad. That's what I get for trying to sneak it in after the fact here. But like all things GIS, expect it to crash. And if it doesn't work, go back and do the exact same things, and then it works magically and we have no explanation. Anyway, we are bleeding into office hours right now, so I'll open it up to questions, but we just wanted to kind of show you you can get started pretty quickly, just getting the basic QRiS project going, getting yourself oriented, where all you really need to know is, roughly where's my project reach. Anything people want to dig deeper on or ask questions about, or anything that the sort of Riverscape Consortium team wants to add to that?
I'll add that we're planning a future webinar that will demonstrate, once you've created one of these QRiS projects and maybe you've digitized some of your data into the QRiS project, we're going to run a webinar on how to then share that, upload it into the data exchange and make it available for colleagues and collaborators to see.
Philip, I think it was the Canadian Thanksgiving week. We actually did that webinar. So you guys can go back and look at the old events, and there is exactly what Philip just said. So you're remembering correctly. We talked about doing that, and we already did that one.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, I think it was, whatever you guys do in Canada. I don't know. I'm in a blank project. I lost everything. There's my live mess. Back to the races. And I've got my my stuff that I had before. So that's pretty handy. Cool. Well, other questions, comments? If not, what I'll do is I'll stop recording, then we'll just leave it open for regular office hours. And if anybody has anything they need help with, we're happy to go there. But I'll just give it one more chance. Yeah.
I have a general question.
Yeah.
Hi.
How's it going, Ann?
Good. I downloaded a US wide IGO layer, which is interesting.
Yeah, how'd that go for you?
It actually was fine. I clipped it to my study area. It worked great.
Okay. But trying to load the whole thing on the map, GIS will.
No, I put it through an ArcGIS model.
Cool.
And then I wondered if you had a valley bottom version of that.
We don't, Anne.
Okay.
If you can imagine that the the national data set you downloaded was just points. If you
Yeah,
think
it's
about
very small.
the
compared.
data density of just points versus the polygons, the
Yeah.
polygons are too big. How big's your study area?
It's like 5 counties on the coast of California.
Oh, cool.
It's not that big.
We do have the ability to create custom merges of extents. So if what Joe's going to show here is filtering to just the VBET projects, the valley bottom projects for an area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to swing west here. And
where's one that we did a big merge? Would that be the like the Upper Bear, I guess?
I know that there are VBET assemblages of like Utah.
yeah, we've done a few custom ones.
Yeah.
How many, anybody got an idea how many Huck 10s are in those 5 counties, Anne?
Oh, it's probably like 12 or
Okay.
17 or 25. I haven't really counted them. Let's see, there's 3 in San Mateo and Santa Clara, but then they get sort of bigger and more as you go north into sort of Mendocino.
Why don't you reach out on the riverscapes.net community platform, list the counties or the Huck 10s that you're interested in,
Mm-hmm.
and request a custom assemblage of those VBET projects.
You know, it'd probably be faster for me to just do it by hand. I was just hoping for a shortcut.
Okay.
Because I can just download each one and then assemble them.
So
Sure.
up to you if you want, or if somebody else is trying to do a similar thing, that support, you can just hit submit a ticket and then fill it out like and just say, yeah, is it possible to get get a merge of these things? A really nice way, we did this in a previous webinar, to request a merge. You could create a collection, and so so I could say, you know, limit stuff to the map here. You could create a collection, you could curate that collection. These are the ones that I want, and then put the request in.
Yeah, I think I've already made the collection
Okay.
of the projects together.
Yep. It's a great question. We don't let you do something that we know will blow up the system. So.
Thank you. I don't mean to blow up your system.
Well, no. It's just like that at that scale, you'll just about get away with it. And like you say, you can just, I mean, do the union yourself. There's a few little housekeeping things in terms of packaging that into a single Riverscape project that Philip does when he runs that merged project tool.
Yeah, I'm sort of a middle beginner on GIS, so I don't have my Python stuff in order. So I kind of can't do it that way yet.
No worries.
Yeah.
Cool. Other questions? Great. Well, I'm gonna hit stop recording here, and